Hi.
First question is about why classical music, how you started playing, and why the French horn.
Well, okay. In my early childhood, there was a lot of music played in the house. My dad had a lot of records. He, at one point, worked at a classical music station, radio station. And so there was the soundtrack of my growing up was Beethoven and Brahms and Mendelssohn and, Strauss tone poems. Little did I know what was coming, right? And when it came time for me to be in band, I wanted to play the horn, and they wouldn't let me. So they said it was too hard for beginners, which they weren't wrong. It's pretty hard. So I started on the trumpet, and I played that for several months, and then decided that music wasn't for me. And
After 2 months?
Maybe
3
four.
months.
Maybe four. Okay. And probably something I couldn't express as an 11 or 12-year-old was, those were my dad's records, and in the interim he had passed away. So I think when I started playing after I got over the initial excitement of it, that just brought back a lot. So I decided that it wasn't going to be for me. And I was too shy to tell my band director, so I had my homeroom teacher go tell him that I wasn't going to play the trumpet anymore. So the homeroom teacher comes back and says, well, I told Mr. Enyart that you're not going to play anymore, but you need to know something. And I was like, what? He goes, well, he cried when I told him. And that, it's like, okay.
Talking about pressure.
Right? So I finally went and talked to him, and he made the connection for me that music wasn't really about loss. It was actually about connection. And so I said, okay, I'll play the trumpet. So then years went by, and my mom had remarried, and we moved to a new town and a new school, and I was still playing the trumpet. And new band director says we need some people to play the horn, and I just kind of was, not interested at that point. And it was made clear to me that it was not going to be my choice. I was going to play the horn for this next concert, and so I did. And the concert ended, and I said, "Good, I'm going to go back to trumpet." And he says, "Wait, look at the music for the next concert." And I looked at it and said, "Nope, I'm going to go back to the trumpet." And he said, "Actually, you're not." So that's how I became a horn player, not really on purpose.
Yeah, but first,
yeah,
at first you wanted to play the French horn, right?
I did. Yeah, but here I am. I wouldn't have made it as a trumpet player. The horn is where I belong.
So the next question is about your HSO connection. How did you get here? When? And if you remember, what was the very first show that you played with this orchestra?
Oh, the first concert I played with the orchestra was Ein Heldenleben. It was shortly after.
Talking about French horn
yes,
parts.
Eight, 9 horns on stage. It was shortly after I moved to the area, and I got called to be a sub, and yeah, that was my first experience. But then it was many years later that I auditioned and got into the orchestra, and that's a funny story. So the day before the audition, I had a young horse at the time and was at a horse show, and the horse and I parted ways over a jump. Which means that from this height, I landed on the ground and bruised my ribs pretty badly, actually. And then auditioned for the Huntsville Symphony the next day, which as a brass player, is problematic. But somehow I endured through the pain and won the audition. So I think that was probably maybe 12, 13 years ago now. Yeah. You've been stuck with me for a while.
That's true. We've been working together ever since I'm here, I think. Yeah.
A little after.
Yeah, little after. Yeah. So when you don't play here, you play where? In any other orchestra?
Yeah,
Do you teach?
I do teach, yeah. I'm on the faculty at Middle Tennessee State University, and I've been there, I think this is my 18th year.
How many students do you have?
10 or 11 horn
Okay.
students. Yeah, I teach
I'm
them.
just curious about how many horn players there
Yeah.
are at
Oh, yeah.
any given university. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
interesting.
And then I play with the Chattanooga Symphony, and I have done a lot of work with Nashville and recording studios, but I really, since the pandemic, have changed and prioritized different things, and come to Huntsville whenever I can, and Chattanooga sometimes.
You were talking about riding horses.
Mm-hmm.
You're a horse person. Is that something that you do for fun? Maybe is it a hobby? Is it more than a hobby?
Well,
is it a lifestyle?
I would call it an
It's
an
a lifestyle.
avocation.
Okay,
If,
all
you
right.
know, so yeah, I have competed. The sport is eventing. It's like a horse triathlon,
Wow.
and have competed at the national level with my previous horse. That, you know, we won't mention the parting of ways again. And I have a young horse now that is an international caliber horse, so I'm hoping to someday do international
Wow.
competition with him. Yeah, and I have my own little farm now and have
And
bees.
the horse is there, or
Yeah,
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 okay,
they're at home.
okay.
They're at
So
home.
how does that work? I'm really curious. Like, is there a special training program for horses like that? If you know that, okay, it's gonna be we're gonna go here in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, whatever, and you have to do certain things. You have to do certain diet. You have to do certain. I mean, for the horse,
Yeah.
you have to do certain
Well, yeah, me too.
exercises.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. This is how much I don't know anything about this. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that different than training to be a musician.
Okay.
You know, there's a path you have to take, and who you study with and learn from really matters so much. And I'm the horse's teacher, whether he likes it or not. He's stuck with me.
Well, whether he wants to play the French horn, he's gonna play the trumpet.
Yeah. Yes.
See?
Yeah. It's his show right now. I mean, he's young. I just sat on him for the first time this past summer. So we're baby steps. Yeah. And then with the farm, I have a garden and bees and chickens and, you know, the whole 9 acres.
So that's kind of your life outside of classical music. That's your
Yeah.
farm and
Yeah.
horse riding.
It's
and
great. Wouldn't change a thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
A little more general question about the future of classical music. You know, there's those kind of questions. But strictly based on your own experience as a teacher and as a musician, and if you remember what it was like when you started, maybe we can compare it to present days and say there is hope or there is no hope, or what's happening.
Well, hope does spring eternal. You know, when I think about the future of classical music or the present state of classical music, it is an enduring art. If you look at, you know, Michelangelo's David, well, in 100 years, people are still going to look at Michelangelo's David and be in awe of it. And I think that classical music is no different. We are not sculptors of marble, but we are sculptors of sound. And as long as we continue to do that, people are going to want to hear that. It kind of goes back to my early days playing the trumpet. Once I made that internal connection to it, you don't lose that. It's indelible. So if we can connect with our audiences that way, and the music is great enough to do that.
And you see this in your students as well? Like you see that they're interested because of the music?
Well, the music is what always draws. Yeah, I do think the way we teach music needs to change.
In what way?
Yeah, well, that's a long story and more time than we have.
How do you know?
A lot of music teaching, at least in the United States, it might be different in Europe, is imagine you're a tennis player, and when you are playing tennis, what's your goal? You wanna hit the ball, right? But a lot of music teaching is, okay, well, this is what you do with your feet, and now you bring the racket back, and then think about how you're gonna step forward and then move the racket, and then we kind of lose sight of the ball in that. And for us, that's the sound. You know, we teach all of these things peripheral, but we sometimes miss the main point. And neurologically, it's a totally different function of the brain to think hit the ball, or think of all the things I have to make my body do to hit the ball. And it makes it harder to do it, and it makes it, if it's harder, you struggle more and you enjoy it less.
So you find, at least in your experience, that the education here is more technical, about technicalities small details of how to execute.
Yeah, thinking about what your body does rather than what the goal is. You know, a good example would be articulation. So you speak many languages, right? How did you learn them? You don't like it when someone's asking you the questions, do you?
No, well, because I learned all of them practically the same way, as that you just do it.
You
have
imitate
to be in
the sound.
Yeah, you imitate,
yes,
and you have to
exactly.
be in a language environment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you're learning it by imitating sound. And so let's think about when we articulate on an instrument. And you know, you're a wind player. You were taught, well, at least I was taught, and almost everybody I know was taught. You go ta. You say ta. We don't connect that to the sound. It's an action. And when you make it about an action, it's a different function in the brain, and that signal is actually 2,000 times slower than if you just make it part of the sound and integrate it. And so we're making the job harder than it is. And it could be easier and then more joyful.
I mean, you know, folk music is still now being taught exactly like that. You know,
right.
This is how you do it. Imitate me. No, doesn't sound good. Now it sounds like that.
And we're such a tradition-based art form, and I mean, rightfully so. It's hundreds of years deep, and it's so steeped in it. And in order to have that many people literally on the same page doing it, it has to be pretty structured.
Yeah.
But we can't let that override what we do. And actually, one of the reasons I said I come to Huntsville whenever I can, and it's because you help us do that. You know, you help us get past whatever it is that we're dealing with as musicians and start to see it collectively as a whole. And I appreciate that so much. So thank you.
Thank you.